Now, it has been 8 months since I've last made a reptile room tour video. There's a good reason for that. After editing that one way back in December of 2023, I realized a couple of things. The enclosures just looked very crappy. I wasn't happy with them. The animals didn't look too happy with them, and overall the room just looked, well, bad. Of course, through this 2024 year, I've gone through the journey of Project Jungle, where I turned every single one of my enclosures into a bioactive vivarium. It was at that point in time when I made my first bioactive enclosure that I vowed not to do another reptile room tour until every enclosure was looking absolutely fantastic. Happy to say, boys and girls, that day is today. We have the vast majority of almost every enclosure. There's like a single-digit amount that aren't bioactive, where everything else is looking absolutely fantastic, and I'm so stoked to show you guys this fully bioactive reptile room tour. Let's get into it. At this point, you guys are probably already seeing a major difference. Number one, a ceiling. There is finally some sort of ceiling over here at Dakota Blue Exotics. You know, a lot of you guys had problems with the old no ceiling thing. The insulation was all out. Everyone bugged about it, and to be honest, it looked crappy. The thing is, we have excellent full spectrum lighting on every single enclosure going down. It makes this really great ambient look. There's like God's holy light coming out of these shelves. All in all, it looks fantastic. Yeah, and then there's this brand new thing right over there. But hey, let's start with these enclosures first. This enclosure we're going to be talking about today is going to be my pair of chahuas. They are in this 18 by 18 by 24 enclosure that, once again, fully bioactive planted vivarium. Pretty much all planted vivarium, so I'm not going to say that every time. Enclosure has been doing pretty good, I would say. A couple of things, you know, I skipped the silicone process. I did a bit of a new method for the background, and unfortunately, it just doesn't hold the way silicone holds. I hate using silicone. It smells. It takes forever to cure, so I'm not super upset with it, but it would look a lot nicer if I did do the silicone. The cocoa fiber and stuff would have sticked a little bit better. All these Chahua Geckos have been really enjoying this enclosure, absolutely destroying all the air plants in there. They unfortunately haven't been good about giving me a good fertile clutch of eggs. The second year of the row where it's all duds from this girl, you can see she's done laying for the year. She's finally starting to eat again, get some fat going back on her. They seem to really crash out after their last clutch of eggs, and then as the year goes on or the season goes on, they start gaining more weight, as you can see here. I think for this enclosure, we're gonna have to do some plant swapping. The 1.0 of my substrate, which is what is in this enclosure, it seems that some plants really enjoy it. Like you see this, I don't recall this plant, but it absolutely loves it. You can see how fast and amazing it's grown. And then while others, like the begonias and the Swiss cheese plant, don't really enjoy it. They seem to be struggling with this substrate. We'll have to switch some of these out and get a little bit more plants that are more tolerant of the type of substrate that's in there right now. Moving one step over here, we can talk about the standing eye, otherwise known as the standing day geckos. They are also in an 18 by 24. We have this nice row and then a couple of 18s and 12 by 12s as we go lower and lower. This enclosure has been looking great. The plants are growing a little less than I would like them to grow. The prayer plant's doing great. The palm's finally starting to get in, but I would like it to grow just a little bit faster. Hearing Jew absolutely loves this setup. You can see how it's starting to twist. I've kind of like mandled it to the branch because I want it to like twist into it. I think that'll start looking really cool. But as far as our arboreal plants in the back, they've yet to sprout, and so it kind of gives it this empty look. As time goes on and the plants grow more and more, this enclosure will look a lot more filled out, and I believe the standings will love it even more. There are no clutches for the standing eye, which I am a little bit disappointed for. This is our first time pairing this girl, or well, not the first time pairing this girl, but the male, we got him this year to start pairing. So maybe we'll get some eggs, maybe we won't. The girl does look pretty gravid, and I have noticed some sort of breeding behavior, but hey, if we don't get eggs this year, there's always next year. Next up on the list is going to be everybody's favorite tokay gecko. Come here, Bert. This, of course, is going to be Bert the tokay gecko, an absolutely amazing tokay gecko that I have raised up and tamed. As you can see, he is the tamest gecko on YouTube. At least I think so. Maybe not. I don't know. Again, 18 by 18 by 24, fully planted. The Monstera, absolutely love this. We have started planting some more stuff in there. So we started adding some friendship plants, a nerve plant, pothos, begonia, a philodendron, just to really get this enclosure going. I give it out of a couple of months, this enclosure will start looking absolutely fantastic. Of course, Bert absolutely loves it. Again, destroying the air plants. The Tarantulas just don't seem... I gotta figure out my Tarantia, because you can see in both of these enclosures, they aren't looking the best. So maybe we gotta start watering a little more. There's a trick, I just don't know it yet. Not the begonia, sir. Leave the begonia out of it. Next up are going to be some non-bioactive stuff because they're simply temporary enclosures. The first one is 18 by 18 by 18 is housing my candy dot tokay, the one that we got in this video right here. Absolutely amazing morph of tokay gecko. I'm just waiting on these new enclosures to come in. It's actually why we haven't, I believe there's 5 more tokay morphs that we've yet to have that are supposed to be coming in, but I had to put them on hold because I don't have these new enclosures. They should be coming at the end of the month, which means as soon as they come, we get to set those bad boys up, and then you guys get to see 5 new tokay gecko mutations that we will be working with over here. For now, that was completely fine in this 18 by 18, but like I said, temporary enclosure until the end of the month until we can get a nice 2 by 2 for him and a girlfriend to go into. Last but certainly not least, we have this 12 by 12 by 18, again, not bioactive, temporary enclosure for Big Red. Big Red is my largest and most defensive tokay gecko, and we've been working with him right now. What you guys are thinking, Dakota, why is your largest tokay gecko in a 12 by 18? Well, that's because this is all part of the taming process. I'm actually in the works of making a video day by day as I tame out this tokay gecko. I say he was the largest, most defensive, well, he's still large, but the most defensive tokay, I mean it. And we have gotten into a really good state, as I'll demonstrate right now. Hey brother, be good. I just talked you up really highly. I'm gonna need you to keep that same energy. Here we have him. And while yes, he still does have the open mouth and everything. This has never happened before. I am terrified. Maybe I can get him to... When you're doing stuff like this, patience is the virtue, and consistency. We don't want to reward this bad behavior and have him just know that, oh, if he bites and squirms around like this, he can just go back in. Nope. We will keep holding him no matter how many times he tries to bite me until he finally calms down, and then we'll be putting him back. Are you done now? He hasn't been this squirmy in a while, so I kind of am very surprised. He used to be. He's actually been pretty good for the past little bit. I don't know why, but this time he like decides to act out and be a douche. Moving on down over here, we have what I like to call the micro rack. Now this is still a work in progress. Unfortunately, I didn't get everything done in time for the making of this reptile room tour. However, make sure you subscribe because talking about how we are going to be taking all of these types of enclosures and making a bioactive enclosure onto each level. So there will be a 12 or 16 of these bad boys right here, and it'll be showing a lot of really cool micro species. Stuff on the list here is going to be the Urodactylotes. I absolutely love this species. I fell in love with it ever since I was at a reptile show with my friend Richie. He showed me them and then he plopped them down on my finger like this. I always thought when you're thinking of MicroGeckos that all geckos are going to be skittish, running away, and only display only. When I found out about the Urodactylotes, how they chill like this, well, I had to have them, and of course I had to grab a pair. We had this pair chilling in this bioactive 8x8x12, and finally, after some very, very long months, I believe we paired these guys in February, I want to say, we finally got a couple of clutches of eggs going on with these guys, which means soon in the 2024 season, we will be hatching some baby Uris of our very own and have them available for you guys. Going on to the next one, we have a very special gecko, the Clemeri, otherwise known as the Neon Day Gecko, an absolutely beautiful specimen of day geckos and one of my favorites. Fun fact about these day geckos is when I got them, 24 hours later, they escaped, which means a gecko that is around this big two of them were somewhere in this gigantic space, an absolutely massive space. Somehow, after days and days of searching, I actually managed to find both of them. I still can't believe it at the end of the day that I found these guys, but I'm so glad too. Now, while I don't think these guys will be breeding for us this year, I assume in 2025, potentially late 2024, it all depends, that we will be getting samurai eggs at that point. Last but certainly not least, we have some grow out tokay geckos. Now, these guys will be available here very soon. Something I like to do is I keep them with the parents for about 4 to 6 weeks, and then I'll put them in a temporary enclosure for a couple of weeks just to make sure that they can sustain themselves away from the parents, eating fine, drinking fine, not losing weight, all of that good stuff. Kind of like a quality check before I list them as available and then ship them out to new customers. Before we move on back to that area, we have 2 more reptiles to talk about, and probably some of my favorite over here. These are going to be 2 pet reptiles. Number 1 is Wilson the Sulcata Taurus, an absolutely amazing guy. I've had Wilson ever since he was a little baby and was about that big, and now he barely fits in the palm of my hand. And has been doing fantastic. He's a lot more personal. You can see he's trying to come out now. Before, when I'd pick him up, he would like hide for 30 minutes afterwards, but he's definitely becoming a lot more comfortable and a lot just more alive. Isn't that right, buddy? Wilson enjoys outdoor adventures in the summertime, and then in the wintertime or when it's bad weather or anything, he is in this indoor enclosure. However, he is due for an upgrade for the indoor. I do believe that Wilson won't be staying down here just because his spot will take an absorbent amount of space. I'll probably be grafting out or blocking off about an 8x4 area in my bird room, since I only have the 2 birds in there and a lot of space. And we'll just have 2 birds and then a sulcata tortoise in there until he gets bigger, and then, well, we'll cross that road when we cross that road. Wilson, where are you going? And coming on over here, we have a very special little dude. Oh, where are you going? Oh. We have a very special little bearded dragon. This is Jolly Roger, a KC paradigm morph of bearded dragon. As you can see, he hasn't become tame yet, but he's doing really awesome. Dude's been growing like a weed. We got him as a little baby, and he's already put on so much size. If you guys remember the last video we did before this, we gave him a brand new enclosure makeover, and as soon as he, okay, you can go back, And as soon as he is big enough, again, that's subadult to adult size, we'll be moving him from this 36 by 18 by 18 over to this 4 by 2 by 2. It'll be getting a complete Project Jungle makeover, fully bioactive planted vivarium. I'm really excited. This will be my first large arid vivarium build since starting Project Jungle, so a lot of pressure, but I think we can get her done. Alrighty, after that embarrassing encounter, let's move on to this shelf right here. Now, right here, we are going to be able to see the anoles enclosure. This is a bioactive enclosure I did for a pair of rescue anoles that came in here fairly recently. Now, unfortunately, and I'm really sad to say, the male ended up not making it. It was a gigantic bummer. I was really disappointed, but there comes a case, especially when you're doing these rescues, where some of them are just, they're too far gone. And although you can try everything you can, some things are just too far and they're not able to pull through. However, the female seems to really bounce back. Although she was not as bad looking as the males look, she looks like a completely different animal now. Absolutely great, filled out. You can't see any of those ribs or the hip bones anymore like you used to. She looks fantastic. And I have a little conspiracy theory of what's going on in this enclosure. I have this beautiful Persian shield, and you can see here, it looks like bites are taken out of it. Now, I have done extensive Googling, and it has shown that anoles don't eat plants. Why are there chunks being eaten from my plants? You can also see it on this wandering Jew as well. I don't know. The pothos is untouched, but these 2 plants have been chewed on, and a baby philodendron I also put in here. I don't know what's going on. You could say it's crickets, but that doesn't explain the pothos or the fact that I put crickets in a lot of these enclosures and they don't bite the plants. I don't know what's going on with this one. It's a cursed setup so far, so I'm gonna leave it be and just see what plays out, but I don't know if I'm gonna put more plants in here before I figure out if it's that girl or if there's a mystery bug eating these. Moving on to the next one, we have a very special enclosure. Now, this is the very first bioactive cage I made. Even before I thought about Project Jungle, before I started this bioactive expansion store, we started with this cage right here. This actually houses a unknown number of mourning geckos. As you guys know, mourning geckos are parthenogenetic, which means they lay eggs without males being present, and I'm not sure how many mourning geckos there are at this time. Started out with 4 or 3. I can't really remember how many we started out. This enclosure's been here for a little bit now. And I know there's more and more coming because the bottle cap that I use for the Pangea, it goes a lot quicker than it used to. There's probably a lot of mourning geckos in here. Again, I don't know how many. I usually see like 2 to 3 at a time, but you know. This enclosure, I kind of want it to just be like a left alone thing, so you can see these things really kind of grow out. It's an overgrown jungle enclosure. The mourning geckos absolutely love it. I constantly see them hang out in the canopy of this Swiss cheese, soaking in the rays going up top. We also have this nice little prayer plant, a Cortania, I don't remember the Latin on that, and then this fern that is doing okay, but not great. Seems to be the case in most of these builds. There's a couple of plants that fucking love it, they're doing great. And then there's like one, like a fern, that just isn't doing that well. And then moving on to the enclosure right next to it, we have a very special Tokay gecko baby in here. This is one that was produced by myself from my oddball to granite pairing. Now, oddball is an unidentified Tokay gecko mutation that we have in our collection. I've talked to plenty of people over the years, and no one has been reproduced. What's going on with this Tokay has not been reproduced into captivity, so us ourselves are trying to prove that out. So far, we have a normal-looking baby from that pair. Fingers crossed it ends up being recessive. We will be line breeding this guy back to the mom to see if anything happens to it. If nothing comes from it, then well, I guess I wasted quite a few years trying to prove it out, but I had fun along the way, and that's what matters. As you guys saw in the last video, don't worry if you didn't see it, I'll have it up at the end for you boys and girls. We did end up redoing this one, doing a brand new mixture for this. All the plants are doing great. Purple passion that we put in here, it seems to be struggling a little bit. We did end up uprooting that because that was the only survivor from the last run that we tried in this enclosure. So I think it's just going to take a little bit for it to kick back up, but I don't have any doubts that it'll pull through in the end. Taking a look down on the second level, we got a couple of awesome enclosures to talk about. First up is going to be Hamburger, the white tree frog. I absolutely love this dude. He has been a great companion and growing like a weed. We got him when he was a tiny little baby, maybe that big, and now he almost looks like a full adult white tree frog. Did find out recently that this guy is a male from him calling. You can see it in other videos. It freaked me out because he only calls when I do YouTube videos, no other time. It's really weird, actually. It's been great. Maybe one day we can get a female for him and we can have like a little couple of white tree frogs. I think that would be awesome. Obviously, we need a bigger enclosure first before we attempt that, but it might be on the roster one day. I'm not opposed to it, definitely. Over here we have what I like to call the cursed 29-gallon tank. I have attempted a bioactive enclosure in this 2 or 3 different times. This is the 3rd attempt and probably most likely the last. Most of the plants ended up dying. You see there's like remnants of bamboo over here. Nothing really over there. And then just the snake plant, but you can't kill snake plants. They're like pothos. They're unkillable. In this enclosure, we do have, for right now, is a pair of Chahua Geckos. The male is actually on hold right now and will be leaving us next week. And the female, I'm pretty sure this will actually be the girlfriend to the candy dot we saw a little bit earlier. I believe that female is 100% het patternless, just judging by the het markers of the belly having been pretty much spotless. Not 100% sure, but I would call it possible het for patternless at this time. It's actually going to do it for this shelf. The bottom just has a lot of propagations that we're doing. Obviously, we sell plants over here as well for bioactive enclosures. And instead of spending money on plants, I like to propagate my own. So it's about 100 clippings over here that we are propagating. Hopefully in the next 4 to 6 weeks, all of these will be ready to go for their new homes and hopefully bioactive enclosures. Actually, back here, this is behind the shelf that we have going on. We actually have 2 tanks over here. The first one is going to be for my T. sturmey, the Goliath bird-eating spider, an absolutely fantastic tarantula. Definitely, I own quite a few tarantulas. I don't really remember the number, but I think we're still in the single digits with the T's. This is the only one that I'm actually afraid of. I guess the Regalis I am slightly afraid of when I've learned about its venom capabilities, but the T. sturmey, man, it's definitely nothing to mess around with. It's a serious spider. It's absolutely awesome. I have a great time feeding it. Everything goes into that. Just a really cool tarantula overall. Over here, we actually have a pair of chubby frogs. Most people don't know I have chubby frogs because I've only really made one short about them since I got them. I don't think I ever made an actual YouTube video of it. They are in a bioactive enclosure that is doing great over here. I keep them over on this side because 10 gallons are really hard to fix. I like the front opening look a lot better. And these guys burrow 90% of the time, so you never really see them, so I figured this is a back of the shelf species to keep. Something I'm sure is really boring to viewers, but it's something I just want to document because I'm really excited for it. Since we did expand to that giant grow tent over there that we'll talk about a little bit later, I had to take rid of the grow tent that was here for my air plants, which means this is going to be my new inventory space. You can see we got a couple of things going on. Looks like we're almost sold out of most of our stuff. We have shipments coming in this week, so this will be filled with all of our inventory stuff. Right now we just got a couple of substrates going on right here, but I'm really excited to have a designated space for the products that we sell over at Dakota Blue Exotic. It's really exciting stuff. Still needs to be cleaned up. There's like lights in here over here, but we'll get it cleaned up and we'll get it looking really nice. And before we move on to the stuff back, which then leads to the stuff over there, we got to talk about something that's super exciting. You guys remember the Isopods used to be right here. I actually ended up using the shelf for that tent for our plant propagations and everything, which means all of our Isopods and springtails are now over here. Over here at Dakota Blue Exotics, we work with 10 different species of Isopods, ranging from the zebras, Japanese magic potions, giant canyons, the P. armadillo, panda kings, dairy cows, a lot of Isopods over here. Absolutely love these guys. We definitely will be expanding more and more Isopods as the years go on, and then we have multiple cultures of springtails going on to sell that is also available. Now getting over to this side, which honestly I don't really film much anymore. Right here is actually our old grow tent where we used to keep the plants. Don't worry, it's coming up next. I decided to keep the tent here because as it goes on and we get more and more propagations, more stuff, the mother plants that are in this one will eventually need their own spot. And so I figured I'm not going to put anything else here. Why not just leave it here for now? I'll eventually have a use for it. On the bottom in this 8x4, we actually have a pair of tegus. I don't know if anyone remembers that I keep tegus. I used to breed them. We had quite a few different monitor lizards and tegus. We were a big lizard guy for a little bit. Unfortunately, due to well, very tragic events, we've ended up having to rehome most of the stuff as a bad yeah, I don't want to get into it. We have a pair of tegus. We still have Big Blue, my big blue and black and white mixed tegu. It's hot in here, I apologize. Then Bertha, big Bertha. Bertha is a Florida wild-caught tegu. When I was doing Florida imports a couple of years ago, I decided to keep her. I love her orange belly that she has going on. A bit of a temper, she's very feisty. Her and Blue really, I don't want to say enjoy each other's company, that's almost like anthropomorphizing it, but they seem to get along very well. We do have a spare enclosure in mind in case everything goes wrong, but these guys have been kept together for years now, and we've had absolutely no issues with them. Also, don't breed the tegus. We don't cycle them for breeding or anything. When they brumate, we do separate them, and then when they're time to go, we put them back together, but we don't do any of the cycling that you would need in order to get the tegus to breeding. So they don't really breed with each other, they just hang out together, and like I said, no problem so far. They've just been a great pair to hold on to just as personal pets for myself. All right, I know you guys are here for the reptiles, but I apologize. I'm gonna nerd out about my plants just for a minute. You can skip a minute ahead and see more reptiles, but I gotta talk about this grow tent. This thing out, man. This is going to be a 3 foot by 2 foot by 6 foot grow tent for all of my plants. Look at, oh, you cannot see me. That's okay. You guys are just going to get the POV view because you won't be able to see me because of just how bright these lights are. Absolutely fantastic. It is looking a little sparse right now, so the plan is we have a shipment coming either this week or next week with about 80 plants. So the top will be filled with Tillandsias. We only have a couple of jumbos and then one Tillandsia caput, I believe it's what they're called, that weird swiggly one. I enjoy that species. At the bottom, we'll have all the plants that we get from our shipment, so you can see there's some, and then over here we have all of our propagations, philodendrons, those and stuff. And then if we go a little bit further down, we've got some mother plants going on, some Swiss cheese right there at the bottom, a carnivore, a Venus flytrap just because I enjoy them, more propagations, maroon rock, pothos, and then some mother plants that I'm growing out, prayer plant, the pepperoni plant I call it, elephant ear just because I love elephant ears, and then a couple of other stuff down there as well. Looking all the way down there, you'd probably say to yourself, that is the reptile room tour and we're done, but oh no, boys and girls, we still have all of this to talk about. Down here in this 4 foot by 2 foot by 4 foot, I apologize, it's a little messy. We've just been doing renovations and I wanted to make a reptile room tour because I haven't made one in 8 months. We have Varanus malinus, otherwise known as the quince monitor, an absolutely amazing species and literally the only monitor lizard I still keep. Old Dakota used to wrestle with Argus monitors and we had like 5 quinces at one point. Life was fun. But my rockstar lifestyle, I guess, came to an abrupt end. However, I had to keep my longest captive one. We've had him for 3 years now? We've had him for a long time. An absolutely awesome dude. I kind of started working on taming him because I never really did because I think plus the fact is I had too many monitor lizards, but he's actually been doing pretty good. Hand feeds off of me now, no problem, and he's starting to get less flighty around me, which is obviously a step in the right direction. This is the part in the video where I say the majority of stuff is bioactive. Back there you saw what I call my beauty stuff, either my pet animals or stuff that is just like a one-off side project, things like the Urodactylodes or the standing eye, where it's just one project that I wanted to dedicate a specific planet vivarium for. However, it's a lot easier making one Urodactylodes enclosure versus 29 gargoyle enclosures or something like that. So this is where we started implementing the hybrid system, where we don't have live plants because we aren't able to get lights in these rack systems. However, we do have a fully bioactive mix that does work with the cleanup crew and just a deep substrate soil for the animal. Over here we actually have Andrew's gargoyles. So if you guys don't know, maybe you guys haven't been a fan of the channel for a long amount of time, we recently took in Andrew's gargoyles at the end of last year. So maybe they were in that last reptile room tour. I don't exactly remember when we got these guys, but we took in roughly 20 gargoyle geckos, I believe, to continue on Andrew's projects. And these are a couple of the grow outs things that we have. So we're growing out these in these little sub-adult rack systems, and then once they get old enough and breeding weight, we then move them to a bigger rack system and or bigger enclosure depending on where they go. A whole lot to talk about here. We'll get into a lot of gargoyle geckos very, very soon when we get over there. So these are just a couple of the grow out ones that we have over here. Oh, come on. All right, don't do the jump. Alrighty, now we are back here like at the beginning of the video, except now we have about 100 more reptiles to talk about. Whoa, fantastic. We'll start cage by cage. Over on the far end right over there, we actually have an Amazon Tree Boa. Remember the cursed tank we talked about a little bit earlier with that pair of tokay geckos where the males actually will be leaving us soon? That's actually where the same place we got this. The guy bought a pair of tokay geckos for me. At some point or another, he did not want them anymore, so he gifted them to me, including that Amazon Tree Boa as well. I believe he was getting out the hobby. I don't remember exactly what happened. But what I do know is we got an awesome female Amazon Tree Boa. She has been doing great, finally feeding for me. No problems with her. She does not have a bioactive enclosure. Her, I want to do a 3-sided with multiple branches coming out and everything. It's going to be a very expensive and time-consuming project, and then I'll need to find a temporary enclosure for her. So it's been on the back burner, but I believe that's like the only either PVC or glass enclosure that has not had a bioactive Project Jungle build yet. Next up over here, we got my beautiful leachie girl. Sometimes she is in a spicy mood. Come on, girl. Okay, oh, you know what? Okay, I'll leave you alone. I'm sorry. I apologize. And next to it, we have another Zen Habitat enclosure. You're gonna hear me say that a lot over here. I absolutely love Zen Habitats. They're great enclosures for these larger geckos, tokays, leachies, things of that nature. They come in a variety of sizes. Why don't you check them out? I have a link down in the description. That's my spiel right now. This one is actually housing my Het Platinum Tokay Gecko. It was supposed to do a really cool pairing for this girl, but something happened. I don't want to ruin it. You're gonna have to subscribe to the channel if you want to find out, because that'll be in a later video. But something happened with this girl that was completely unexpected, and now she cannot be paired for the time being. I'll leave it at that. Leave it a little suspenseful. I really love the Het Platinum gene because it still has a visual marker in the heterozygous form. You get this nice light blue gecko with light orange to yellow speckling, and then once you get the visual form of that, the expression form, I don't know, man, I'm not a scientist, I breed geckos. You get an absolutely great silver platinum looking gecko, incredible eyes, golden flakes, an absolutely incredible gecko. I'm really excited to have this girl in my collection, and I'm really excited to be producing more here very soon. Whoops, looks like old Dakota wasn't quick enough on the draw, and our power turned off for the night. Hang on, give me 1 second, let me just... There we go. Much better. On the bottom over here, we have Vivian, my red-tailed boa, and the third reptile that I have ever owned. The first one was Rex the Bearded Dragon, the second one, Amo the Crested Gecko, and then Vivian. I've had Viv for almost 10 years now, I believe 9 years, I want to say. She's an absolutely amazing red-tailed boa. Unfortunately, it is feeding time. I have a rat defrosting, and she is giving me the eyeball right now, wanting to eat, so we can't take her out, unfortunately, but hopefully I get some nice B-roll of her feeding on that rat for you guys before the video comes out. Much to talk about with Viv. She's in a 6 foot by 3 foot by 18-inch high. That is the one thing I really don't like about this PVC enclosure, and definitely once we get some bigger space, I'd love to build her something with a lot more height. I'm thinking even like 4 or 5 feet high, planting some like trees or creating some trees really so she can really climb up and explore, things of that nature. I think would be really awesome to see. We're species that you don't normally see with height, but they actually do like it. So that's the head in the clouds vision. First things first, we need to get a proper facility again, and that unfortunately won't be for a little bit of time. This enclosure has everything Viv needs, but I really shoot for better for her in the future, definitely. And on the last tank, we actually just have an empty enclosure. That tank was reserved for Rex, my first bearded dragon and the first reptile I have ever owned. Rex unfortunately passed earlier this year at 12 years old. It was a very difficult process. Still not completely over it. Rex held a very special place in my heart, and it's really, really strange doing a reptile room tour video and not talking about Rex in it. It's gonna take a little bit for me to like make that adjustment. I don't think anyone will go into Rex's enclosure. I think the game plan is actually we're gonna move Vivian somewhere else. As we expand to more Leachianis and more Tokay Gecko projects, we'll need more of these 2x2s where pretty much you're going to see, this is where the new ones are gonna go. So we'll have 4 new ones over here, and then we can put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2 more over there, so have like just an entire wall of these 2x2s dedicated to these large geckos that we really enjoy working with. These 4 Zen Habitat cages right here, we have my Chahua Gecko projects. We have a variety of different Chahua Geckos that we are working with. Right down in here, we have the Green Galaxy pairing. This is just, most of the females are normal, so when I say pairing, it's just going to be the male that is a visual morph. Galaxy to normal, she so far has given us 6 eggs inside this enclosure, and then 4 eggs that we are artificially incubating. 2 of those eggs hatched out, 1 didn't make it unfortunately, 1 is doing great, and then like I said, we have 6 still waiting that are cooking. It's going to take a long time unfortunately. Moving on, right next to it we have the reduced pattern to normal. They have 4, I believe, in that like really large cork tube. There are 4 eggs cooking right now. Below it we have the granite to het granite pairing. That's the only one I believe where the female is a morph that is paired currently. That's going to change here very soon. Big things coming, a lot of Tokay morphs. We already kind of talked about it. These guys are sitting on 1 clutch of eggs, I believe, so far. 1 good clutch. They've been guarding it. It's been going great for the last couple of months. Should be hatching here relatively soon. Then lastly, we have the oddball, the Tokay I talked about back there. This is her, absolutely amazing gecko. We have a male that is actually over here in this temporary enclosure. This is a 29 gallon. I just wanted oddball to get used to her new surroundings, get a little bit fatter. I like getting nice big female geckos before we pair them, make sure they have enough calcium fat reserves to go through the toll of really producing eggs in these numbers. So the one over here is actually the Paradox male that we got recently. I wanted him to have his own space, get acclimated to how we do things here, and I would venture to say within the next couple of weeks the Paradox will be paired to Oddball, where we'll be doing this really cool combination. This of course is not the permanent enclosure. Again, I'm waiting on these new cages to come. They've been on back order. It's been a very stressful time. I apologize. This one girl will be moved into an 18x24 until we do have a new male for her, which will probably be in the 2025 season. I don't make reptile room tours, Jesus Christ. Last but not least, my new Caledonian Geckos. Are you ready? Here we go. I'm gonna be honest with you boys and girls, I don't think people want me to talk about 70 crested geckos and gargoyle geckos. I don't think that's the, that's why they came for the reptile room tour. I believe we talked about why people came to the reptile room tour and not seeing the actual room. I do want to give some spotlight moments. It's just some really nice geckos going on. Here we have a really interesting tiger inkblot Dalmatian that is 100% het for Xanthic. Really interesting dude that was gifted to me. Unfortunately, he came to me with really severe floppy tail syndrome. We ended up having to drop the tail because it was just, it was like one of the rougher cases of FTS that I've seen, which was a bit of a bummer, but as you can see, the area is healed completely, and it definitely has not affected him in any way. As I stated in videos in the past, we like keeping these growing guys in smaller enclosures until they do reach that full size. We can grow them a lot quicker, and then at that point they do go into a larger enclosure. For people that will say a gecko is too big, once it reaches that 30-35 grams, this one's going to be 30 because he's a male, he'll be moved into a full permanent enclosure at that time. And also note that all these cages are bioactive. No live plants unfortunately, but full bioactive substrate. They get that nice deep substrate, the availability to hide under leaf litter, just having a little bit more of those natural mentally enriching experiences. These things are going to be my 2023 holdbacks or 2024 holdbacks. We have this absolutely gorgeous red base quad stripe gargoyle gecko. Absolutely love this guy or girl. I'm not exactly sure what you are yet. Still a little small. I guess I could probably check for pores at this time. But man, this thing was this is an absolute beauty. He peed and then jumped. It was a very strange experience. Brother. 10 crested geckos and gargoyle geckos. A lot. We've had an absolutely great year with these guys. I think we are up to 60, 70 eggs. We're almost at the 100 egg mark, I would say. I haven't done a real count in a while yet because it's been so crazy with the amount of eggs we've been getting. A lot of really cool stuff, cappuccino stuff, lily white. I'm a Dalmatian guy, so we have a lot of super Dalmatians in various forms. Confetti line, ink blot stuff. The Tiger Super Dal is my bread and butter. It's like my starting thing that I started Dakota Blue Exotics with, and it's something that I've really incorporated along the generations in my projects. Awesome stuff. We will be downsizing the cresteds throughout this season, 2025, 2026, doing a slow downsizing just to make room for some of the stuff we are growing up, and I want to keep my cresteds a bit tighter, focusing more on quality rather than just the vast quantity of what I have right now. Eventually, when we do that downsizing, I will be tearing this rack system down. I don't like it. I built it myself. I'm not a carpenter. It did not work out very well. Would love to replace this with just some PVC enclosures. There's some absolutely great new Caledonian enclosures being built now, and it's something that I think would just look really nice having, instead of, you know, whatever, how many, I don't know, 20, 30 ready to breed crested geckos, we can have like 8, but we can have them in really nice enclosures, and they'll be the best of the best that we work with over here. It's the game plan, and then of course, as I mentioned earlier, Andrew's gargoyles as well. Andrew has a variety of absolutely amazing gargoyle geckos that he's been working with for generations, so I believe we have 1st gen to 3rd gen of the projects he's working with. It's been absolutely fantastic. It's been a pleasure to take over this project and working with him on it. We have absolutely amazing babies going on and plenty of eggs from these guys. Really awesome gargoyle geckos coming very soon for availability. Whew, and that about covers that. Welcome to my life of a lot of geckos and now really cool enclosures. It's funny, I've been doing the YouTube stuff for a very long time. I believe this is my 5th year doing reptile YouTube, and I wondered for the longest time, Dakota, why don't I grow very much? Why is my growth so short? I actually went ahead and looked at my last reptile room tour before making this. I cringed very hard, man. It is sad how I was keeping animals before. It was a little bit pathetic, and just how the room looked overall. It's no wonder why no one took me seriously and why, like, there's not a big following over here on this channel, because stuff looked bad. It looked like just a bunch of reptiles in random places inside of an unfinished basement. Now it's almost finished. I still have some structured work to do. It's almost done, I promise, guys. Overall, I think things just look a million times better. More uniformed, beautiful planted vivarium enclosures, amazing animals to go in them, and the room itself doesn't look like an unfinished basement, but looks like a proper reptile room now, in my opinion. For those of you that stuck around for a long time, I get the fruits of your labor. You now have cool stuff to look at instead of how I was doing it before, and I hope for those that maybe had a different opinion of me back then, I hope you can look at this video and see, oh, you know what? This guy definitely has been changing the game. You can see he has plans to change even further, and he's definitely evolved. At the end of the day, that was the big thing. I wanted to be more about the animals, more about the quality of how we do things over here, versus just how many different animals can I get and what is the cheapest way and cheapest setup I can put them in. But as always, that is going to do it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this reptile room tour. Let me know what your favorite reptile was that you saw today. And as always, if you want to check out another video, here is the last one we did, upgrading Jolly Rotter's enclosure. I had a great time with that video, or a playlist of the other reptile room tour videos. I'll say it now, this is you're looking at the peak. This is the best of the best. It's only gonna go downhill as you see stuff from before. I apologize. Can't fix the past, but you can look back and see how crappy things were to see how awesome they are now, and that's why I don't delete them. I just want to keep them that way. Always, thank you so much for taking the time in your day to follow us over here at Dakota Blue Exotics. I will see you guys next time, but until then, goodbye.